Had we but whirled enough in time, this coyness lady were no crime. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. Thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldst rubies find. I by the tide of Humber would complain. I would love you 10 years before the flood, and you should, if you please, refuse to the conversion of the Jews. My vegetable love should grow vaster than empires and more slow, and 100 years should go to praise thine eyes and on thy forehead gaze. 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest. An age at least to every part, and the last age should show your heart. For lady, you deserve this state, nor would I love at lower rate. But at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near, and yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. Thy beauty shall no more be found, nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. Then warmth shall try that long preserved virginity, and your quaint honor turn to dust, and into ashes all my lust. The grave's a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace. Now there for a while the youthful hue sits on the skin like morning dew, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires, now let us sport us while we may, and now like amorous birds of prey, rather at once our time devour, than languish in his slow chaff power. Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife through the iron gates of life. Thus though we cannot make our son stand still, yet make him run.
Okay, so the poem to his coy mistress is broken down into 3 stanzas. And in each stanza there is a rhyme scheme. The whole poem has a rhyme scheme of A, B, B, C, C, except for lines 23 and 24, which are lie and eternity don't rhyme. And then 27 and 28 do not, try and virginity don't rhyme. However, lie and try rhyme, and eternity and virginity kind of rhyme. It's a bit of a stretch, but that's okay. Then we have, so the purpose of this poem is for him to convey his need to be with his woman, basically, and the reasons why they need to kind of hurry things along. The first stanza is basically telling us how much he admires her, so it's admiration of her. And it also says, he also wishes, he's basically telling his desires to have more time with her. The second stanza, it describes how they do not have time because they're becoming older. Oopsies. And then the third stanza is basically him convincing her again, saying to be with him again. So he's basically saying, please be with me now. Otherwise, nothing's gonna happen. Some background information actually is coy means shyness, and obviously mistress means woman. So he's basically trying to convince a shy woman to be with him, which is part of the whole reason why he wrote the poem. And in order to explain his purpose, basically, he uses a lot of figurative language, like, thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldst rubies find, I by the tide of Humber would complain. He's using a hyperbole in order to describe their long-distance relationship. Because it's basically saying that she's by the river and he's by the sea, and they're just too far apart. He also uses allusions. And so an allusion to the Bible would be one that says, and you should, if you please, refuse till the conversion of the Jews. So basically his allusion is saying he will be with her till the end of time. Because in the Bible there's a reference to only when Jews will convert when the world is ending. Then he uses another metaphor about my vegetable love should grow vaster than empires and more slow. So basically the metaphor is relating to a garden, so his love will continue to grow. Oops. Just like a vegetable garden or an empire. Also down here in stanza 3, he uses a simile for 2 birds of prey in order to describe that he wants her. And kind of has like the need to be with her. He also uses a metaphor to virginity at the iron gates, which is also kind of considered a symbol. But in the metaphor he uses is he's going to like go through them and tear through them, so he's going to tear through her virginity basically. And also the very last 2 lines is a pun on the word sun, because the sun represents time. This sun equals time, and it's always running, so you're running out of it. But also, the homophone son references the future offspring that they will have. And kind of referencing that he will one day run. And then symbols, we have deserts, which is kind of talking about, it's a symbol for barren and not being able to have children. And so here it's talking about, okay, because time is slipping away, you're going to become barren and kind of like a desert. And then there's also a lot of symbols towards the grave / death. So like the Marvel vault, worms, turns to dust, ashes, and then it actually says grave. And then down here, the iron gates of life is kind of the symbol for virginity and everything like that. And then he also, some of the tone is, his tone is kind of assertive, seductive, and persuasive. And so his use of assertiveness is used here when he says, and you should, if you please, refuse to the conversion of the Jews. And that was kind of being like very assertive. And then he was also being kind of seductive and trying to convince her and trying to be loving towards her, and by saying 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest, showing like, okay, she's worth so much to him. And then down here in stanza 3, he's persuading her to kind of be with her and not letting the shyness get in her way. And it says, let us roll all our strengths and all our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife through the iron gates of life. So it's kind of showing that, you know, he's trying to persuade her to be with him. And then we're going to talk, basically we're going to talk about the speaker. So we have to talk, the speaker is a man wanting to be with a woman. And he's speaking to his mistress, because based on the title it says to his mistress also. Tone was assertive, seductive, and persuasive. And the form he uses, he breaks it up into 3 stanzas with a rhyme scheme of A, A, B, B, C, C, except for lines 23 and 24 and 27 and 28. Those are the only times that it doesn't rhyme. However, 23 rhymes with 27 and 24 rhymes with 28. So the awareness this brings is people have a lot of passion. And they want to choose to express themselves. And the second thing, so that's 1, so here's 2. The second thing is to never go through life without being passionate about something. And we got all of this from CRD.